I'm Meredith, and I'm just a girl stuck in my apartment looking for someone, well, anyone, other than my fiance, who I love dearly. See, he's right there. That's our engagement photo to talk to me. So I found some people. This week, we're joined by all guests who have found new quarantine ways of life and are still using them now. My guest today is Scott DeSantis. He's a founding partner and CEO of Civic Financial. It's a planning firm under Northwestern Mutual. Scott, let's talk about it.
Of course, looking forward to it.
So the basis of everything you do under financial planning is this word that I would imagine people are really scared about right now, being planning. When the pandemic threw such an incredible wrench into everything people were looking to do, whether it's saving or, having a wedding or buying a house, everything that people were planning to do so suddenly. How do you advise your clients? How do you look toward the future now that we're coming out of this phase of the pandemic a bit and opening up now? How do you look towards planning?
That's a really good question. I think it's just more important than ever to plan. And one of the benefits, at least in our industry and in my business, is talking about how important it is to have a plan for the next time something like this happens. And by this, any market correction or unpredictable event, and whether it's a goal like saving for a home or retiring or planning for an estate and passing away during this challenging time. What are things that people need to be doing to think strategically to arrive in the future more well positioned? That's at the forefront of people's thinking. And while it's challenging to sometimes take action or to really think about it when it's a scary time, I think there's a humility that the human race all has during this time, not just in money, but in financial planning, but in anything. And so I think if you're able to connect with people and have honest conversation, people want to be prepared and be strategic to the extent that they're able. So I think if anything, it's been an opportunity to connect with more people.
How are you doing that? I mean, how do you push through what I would imagine is people's fear, looking toward the future now when they think to themselves, how would I prepare for anything else like this when I could have never prepared for this? No matter what I was doing, I couldn't have prepared for a pandemic hitting.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes it's framing and it's where's the opportunity? Right? Where's the opportunity with market volatility or with tax reform or with certain businesses benefiting or with interest rates being really low?
I guess communicating is, and on a more personal level, is that something that you see yourself once things get back to some semblance of normal? Do you see yourself continuing that, or is it back to shutting down the Zoom, turning off the face-to-face, back to just the phones and email?
No, I would eliminate email from my life if I could. Unfortunately, I cannot. But no, definitely Zoom. We had a team meeting and said, always go Zoom versus a phone call if you can. There's always, of course, time when it's not there, or if you're on Zoom and they just dial in, then that's fine. But no, I think that not just in financial planning, but in any form of communication, face-to-face contact is just so important. Communication is so important. Being able to read emotions, connect with people. This morning I had a client who was really stressed, and you could see that they felt better. And so, no, I think there's a lot of good learnings from this experience that I'd want to translate moving forward.
Do you see that demeanor change, having changed in you from, where we were before the onslaught of the coronavirus?
We did a lot over the phone, I think, and we were trying to do more in person, actually. One of the benefits of doing things over the phone is you can be a lot more efficient with your time. And so now I feel like Zoom is the best of both worlds, and to some degree, when things open up, certainly people locally you see in person, and still doesn't preclude you from traveling to meet other folks. I think the biggest change is just there's just like a slower nature. There's moments of COVID that have been take a deep breath and slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that at least has been a benefit to me personally, not, tethered to an alarm, as stressed as I used to be. And I think that that's hopefully something that we can carry moving forward, at least the slower pace a little bit.
What has that meant for the financial world, the industry being such a, as you said, stressful one prior to this extremely fast pace, having to actually slow down? Something I'm sure completely against your nature before this.
Yeah, sometimes it's slowing. There's like the concept of slowing down to speed up. And so part of it has been strategy and more strategy time, because that's something that, especially as an advisor who's, my revenue is based off of meeting with people, bringing in new business, connecting with clients, et cetera. And we don't oftentimes spend enough time thinking, taking a step back, thinking strategically. What are the types of people I should be working with? Where is our value proposition? What's our social media presence look like? How should we be working on our communication skills? What is someone who's 65 going to respond to versus someone who's 35, versus people of different means, or people with children with special needs versus what have you? I mean, there's so many different markets that we work in. And I think this time has, at least for me and some of the people in our industry, I think forced you to take a step back and practice on your skills. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of exam work. And so it's sometimes just, you got to focus on other stuff that comes up. And then you realize, oh man, maybe I should have focused on that a little bit more, or I benefited from doing that. So I was just always trying to see the opportunity that exists and make the most of it.
Tell me more about those opportunities also with, juggling what has been, I've had it described to me as a roller coaster of a, financial market where people can find opportunities looking forward.
Emotion and logic are oftentimes butting heads when it comes to financial planning. Emotions, the master, logic is the servant. And so we've noticed that over time. You look at a lot of people who got very emotional when things were challenging, and those are oftentimes the times when there's most opportunity, right? At the end of March, when things were the most scary in the market, was the time where the most opportunity was had. And so that roller coaster ride is something that we're going to experience for forever. You look at the market over the past 100 years, it's gone down 3 out of every 10 years, right? But it's in the most challenging times with the most opportunities created. So I think this just brings so front and center a memory, because this isn't just a financial thing. This is a global pandemic that we happen to be talking about money and financial planning, but we could talk about 1,000 things that have been affected. 2008 and the depression and the tech bubble, those are all acute areas that impacted one industry and then money as a result. This is everything. Mm-hmm. Nobody's not aware that this is going on. And so it just brings things so much more real.
What advice did you give to people, or even, take yourself to remain steady while you were on, that roller coaster toward the end of March, when things were, it's craziest in the market and just the world in general?
Yeah, it was stay the course, and it was look at history to let us know what the market's done. But it also, it reminded me of the importance of preparing for that moment, because if one's financial plan was predicated upon needing to sell out of their investments to maintain their standard of living, then you don't have any nimbleness if the market goes down and you have to sell assets at a loss. And it was a learning experience for me, having recently started working with a new client who didn't have as much of a buffer, and then wanted to buy real estate, had signed a purchase and sale at the end of February and closing in 6 months. And it was challenging to navigate. And so it's, it just speaks to the importance of having a plan in the first place and then adhering to it when times are tough.
At this point, though, are you still having to, really push people to, I don't want to say again, move past their fear, but is there still a fear to like take action right now when the future is so, as we've heard so many times, so uncertain?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a more risk-averse and conservative nature amongst many people with whom I communicate. But sometimes there's a different risk out there, and there's the risk of doing nothing. And particularly in such a low interest rate environment where yield on safe money is so low, some people it's more risky to do nothing than to do something. And that's not universally true. But I think that all comes to the psychology element and the behavioral science of wealth planning, where if you reverse engineer it, of actually by doing nothing and taking no action in any capacity, I don't just mean investing in the stock market, but doing no planning, you're actually hurting yourself more than by jumping into something.
Mm-hmm. Now, how have you applied these, I guess, lessons, if you will, also to managing a team during this time?
Zoom again, big winner. We did the face-to-face team meeting, so much better than the phone call one. So that's, again, just communication, checking in. I think it's gone down a little bit in the past few months, but one of the things that I thought was really nice, not just in communication with the team, but in clients, was hey, how you doing? You safe? Your family okay? That first 30 seconds of communicating with people, of just let's level setting, those little check-ins to team, or just letting our team know that we care about each other outside of, hey, did you get that paperwork done or whatever, just like the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's been a heightened awareness of that recently. And also, now we miss each other. I work with a lot of my friends. We hang out, we have fun. I miss team lunch. We have to do it virtually now sometimes, but
is that what you've been doing?
We have a team lunch scheduled next week, virtual. There will be a little bit of food shaming, of course, as we all like to, bring our own stuff and talk about it. But no, it'll be good.
What do you think normal looks like to you for this industry? Like, when we get back to whatever normal is, what does that look like? What will that look like?
Normal in the world a year from now or 2 years from now or 6 months, whatever it is in our industry, is a new normal. There's just a new normal because we have just a different humility, a different experience. But I think that, there's a normal where people can act and behave like things are okay. But the new normal is just is 10 degrees more just thoughtful and chill, I think. I just have to think that that's going to continue for a while.
Is that a new and different state for you personally?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I'm not a chill person.
I wouldn't exactly describe myself.
This is my
I wouldn't describe hustling like crazy and building a business and doing all that. I wouldn't describe myself as a chill person either, but more chill now. So
what does more chill now you look like? How have you changed in that way?
How do I change in that way? Well, I think it's just a prioritization thing, right? Even in money, right? Like my credit card bill. Most people's personal credit card bills and spending, I've noticed, have gone down. You look at that and you realize, oh wow, did I actually value that? Was that worth the money that I was paying? Or, oh, I wasn't able to go on this trip. Oh, so nice that I didn't have to go on the plane and deal with this and deal with that, and I got to spend time with family instead. So I think that now we're all itching to do those things, I think, a bit more. But I think that there's just a little bit more of a prioritization that I have in terms of what I value most there's areas of that relate to my business and how I'm running it and how much time I want to spend with certain stuff and financial planning, blah, blah, blah. But then in terms of personal values, I realize I want to cook more. Like, cooking is great. I like tasty food. Like, I've gotten better at that. I've spent more time doing that because I have more time. Like, what have I been cooking? I made good at. Well, my fiance is a chef, so that helps.
Does he allow you to cook?
Well, me cooking versus it was a joint effort in which I led the charge, but the mistakes weren't able to be made because she stepped in.
Excellent.
It's a little cheating, but we made some almond biscotti, and then we made some olive bread and a little curry thing. Yeah, it's cool.
What item, when your credit card bill comes in, let's say in like 2 months, are you most excited to see there that has been missing from the statements of the last couple months? Are you most excited to, insert or swipe your card for once we get back, once the world opens up a little bit more?
That's funny. Like, what am I looking forward to spending money on? I wouldn't exactly say that I endorse Amtrak by any means as like a wonderful thing to spend money on, but I do miss going to New York. I live in Boston. I definitely spent some time in New York. There's a lot of clients are in New York. I love the culture there, the food there. My 3 nephews who live in New York. It's fun to see them. So the travel bill of because that's something that's expensive and it's annoying and you hate spending money on it, but then you're like, well, I got something out of it.
Right.
I'd say the restaurant bills as well. We're definitely since we eat well at home and we're thoughtful of that. If we're going to go out to eat, we enjoy it. So.
And when for you do you think your team is getting back into an office? And are you looking forward to that, or have you found a new respect for working from home? I know a lot of people who hated it and now have kind of eased into it's not so bad.
Yeah, no, I love working from home. I signed a 10-year office lease a year ago, so yeah, no, all good. But my office is 8 minutes from my home. A lot of our partners live within walking distance of the space. We've been able to use it, like 1 or 2 people in there actually during this time. And but no, I think that for a while, we're definitely not like itching to go back. Our work is very like not affected in terms of efficiency, and so I think we're not going to force anybody to go back or pretend that there's a new normal until the world is a new normal. But having a hybrid approach of going in a little bit or having people periodically, as long as we're keeping with what's safe and appropriate. So that's our thoughts.
So as takeaway, what's the most important thing you would say everyone financially can plan for if they're not doing it already, looking back at, maybe what had, slipped through our fingers and we weren't ready for going into the pandemic? What can we all prepare for whatever happens next? Not that any of us thought this was coming.
Yeah, liquidity is important. And having a liquidity plan, having enough money in cash, and or having accessible line of credit against homes or investment accounts or insurance policies or what have you. Just having firepower to act, I think, on a more strategic level, and then on a more basic financial planning, just living within your means, right? And this. America struggles with that, regardless of income. People making lots of money who are living paycheck to paycheck, and so thinking strategically around just living within your means, what you prioritize, having enough money in cash, not having bad interest debt, just literally sticking to the basics, regardless of your wealth, is just so important.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, thank you so much for talking with me today. Andrew thanks you too, because you gave him a little bit of a break, as all I do is talk his ear off.
Well, thank you so much, Meredith. I really appreciate you hosting. It's great what you're doing.
Thanks. And we'll talk to you next time on Let's Talk About It.